leveling up first.
Here.
Increase edge. Increase edge in what? I have might edge too. I suppose it's more intellect. Always intellect. Actually, I don't know. It's not like we... Yeah, I think 3 is not that bad, but after a while I don't know if there's anything really to be gained by having more to say. Might be better to spread out. But for now I think intellect is a solid choice. Okay, tier 4. Concentration increase. +1 training level in concentration skill, which would mean we can use... The negative we have currently in the bonded artifact slot will go away. Not that all that great. On critical success on persuasion, deception or intimidation checks, completely refill your intellect pool. That's very rare though. I can't see a single situation where this would have been useful so far. You like people and you especially like bringing them around to your point of view. It's refreshing and fulfilling. This might be useful later on if we have a lot of hard persuasion checks. At the same time, the concentration +1 is totally worthless to me. It might change if we get better at bonded artifacts though. I'm inclined to go with the invigorating conversation. But at the same time, really, no, I'll take the concentration. This will mean bonded artifact, but I am so focused on concentration. I think this is worthless, but I'll take it anyway, in case we get challenged. I'm not taking any more intellect edge though. I'll definitely go for might or speed. The extra effort we might take, but not any more edge. 2. Okay. Scan thoughts. The surface thoughts of most people, creatures you speak with, appear in conversation. No. Resourcefulness. No. Quantum step. No. Oh, no. No. Quantum step could have probably put one ally to a point within range. That could have probably been something that these type of abilities would have allowed us to basically complete the previous combat crisis section very quickly. Ability to use other people's movement to move a certain character. Maybe even leap across the flames. Okay. There's 4 new ones. Mind control. On hit, confers control, forces a target to fight on your side. 2 uses per day. Okay. You seize control of a rival's nervous system and make her dance to your need. You spill discord among your foes, turning their strength to horrible, horrible weakness. Interesting, but that would be very unlike me. It's a spell though, not a tidal force. So it's not out of question that I would do that. Animate Balefire. Summon a construct that draws the attacks of all nearby enemies and fights on your side. This character can only summon one animate Balefire at a time. Actives the entire crisis. You can call upon hidden forces for aid. They shape a mindless minion from your desire and bind it to your will. This is basically a this is a gamble on Unit, because we have no details on what exactly we're gonna summon. It looks like it might be a distraction, but here's the thing. I'm sure the makers of the game made a summon that they thought was fairly balanced, but in my experience the summons are basically 2 things in these games. They're very abusable and overpowered, or they're practically worthless. There's very rarely that they're in some sweet spot in the middle. They're usually lean at least somewhat to one of those sides. Plague spirits. Infuse critical hits with esoteric entropic forces, conferring disrupted on top of the normal effects of the ability. Entropic forces destabilize the target, causing negative effects to increase each round. When you strike true, your enemies quail. The damage you do lasts beyond the moment, devouring your foe's energy from the inside. Okay. Or Maelstrom. This is a spell that the woman used, Adirace used. It was worthless piece of shit. Here's the problem, the no, damage is... The damage is terrible, because they're individual damage sources, which means 2 points of resistance will block everything but the relativistic damage. You unleash a many-faceted assault upon all enemies before you. Target all in a small area. Okay, that's different. Yeah, but it still sort of sucks. I don't like it. I actually don't like any of these. This could be used as a sacrificial unit. We can choose two. I need to choose at least one of them. Gain 5% bonus for each level of effort applied to perception, lore, mystical tests. Yeah, this is not that good. More damage and esoteric attacks in general. I don't think the mind control is a good option. Rin especially seems to probably would object to something like that. So the construct would be interesting, I suppose. Okay, I'm heavily focused on skills and abilities, not damage dealing. I want to keep true to that, so maybe +1 in Cypher use skill. We currently can't carry all that many ciphers. I'm constantly now, like, if I get one extra, I'll always get some shit on me. I don't like this situation, so I'll take extra cipher use. Then there's summon. I think the summon ally. Yep, 2 extra slots. That takes the pressure off of ciphers. We can get more, buy more if we need it. You. Extra effort? No stat pools. I don't can't get intellect. Definitely would like more strength. Wait a minute. What weapon are you using? Two-handed. Definitely strength, right? What about the abilities? Do they use something besides strength? They're very much strength focus, mostly. Yeah, I don't see any reason why I shouldn't take strength. We're close to another level up. Tier 4. Same with him. Increase edge or extra effort. Maybe increase edge. Maybe increase edge intellect. Because the issue challenge uses intellect. Although edge 3 on speed would not be a bad thing. It's our basic attack after all. Three, I think it's about as much as I want in a single attribute, unless something drastically changes. Rin is nowhere close to getting another level up. 2 tiers below the rest. Yeah, her situation just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Better skill, quick fingers, maybe, I don't know. Extra effort, increased edge, maybe increased edge, speed, that's her strength. He has nothing there. Yay?
Paul says you're in pain. Are you?
At my age, lass, everything hurts.
Right, we had the kaleidoscopic mirror. Might as well do this too. As you cradle this device in your hands, you smell the tang of salt water, and the ground beneath your feet seems to shudder and sway. The mirror within it calls to you in soothing rhythmic pulses. Inspect it. You peer through the device into a void far larger than the thing in your hands could contain. From the far end, a shapeless mass reaches across the distance faster than a blink, and obscures your view of it with an amorphous limb. Enter it. So someone's short story again. It's a whale with a city on its top. Indigo waves rise in the wake of the huge marteling whale bearing down on Sega's cliffs. Yeah, we had a vision of the past where the whale approached Sega's cliffs and it was blasted away by the defensive turrets of the city. Its flank blocks out the sun, its shadow sweeps over your meager dhow and a whole swath of sea. From high up on the beast's back, a lookout leans down. "Plague!" he cries, in a voice that seems too faint even considering the distance. His warning is unnecessary. The yellow jack flag flapping from the mast that can be seen all the way from the city. As the lookout stares directly at your dhow, he cocks his head quizzically and rubs his eyes, plainly confused to see no one in the boat. The light bender on your belt does its work well, while its charge lasts. So I'm invisible, while the charge lasts, so time is of consideration. After a moment, the man wanders off. Snug around your neck, a steel collar trembles and a voice whispers in your head. "Hurry, our seaward batteries can turn the whale to mist if they must, but better to save our fire for a darker day." After a moment, the collar buzzes again and the voice adds, "Eliminating contagion is doctor's work and no doctor would use a saw when a scalpel will do. Go now, cut what you must, and make sure that this sickness does not reach our city." Finally, the voice says, "And don't worry, your body can't fall prey to their disease." The collar goes still. The whale's leathery side looms above you like a living cliff. Somewhere up there are the men and women carrying death toward your home. So the history that happened, they continued on and the defensive batteries destroyed it. So whatever this guy was sent out to do, he failed. Hey, I'm confused. There's some kind of a energy beam here? Is this part of the city or is this part of the whale? I thought this was some kind of a thing firing at that structure, but now I'm not so sure. Gather any gear. The tools of your trade are housed in a locker beneath the fort. Hooked climbing claws, your wind-slice blade, and a concussive crystal pulsing with explosive power. So we can climb, we have a blade, and we have a bomb. You quickly secure them, claws on your hands, sword at your side, crystal on your belt. Remaining in the locker is a small waterproof ledger, which is better left there. There's also a harpoon of azure steel, sunk deep into the whale's flesh, tied to the dwow by a sturdy cable. It would be hard to pull free, and in any case it will keep your boat tied to the beast. Can I read the ledger? Touching it too long to read in its entirety, you open at a page at random. In a meticulous hand there is a date and a below. 3 for the greater good. You flip to another page and it is similarly no more than a date and a short entry. 1 for the greater good. 1 of necessity. As you skim, only the date's numbers change. Any contemplation is cut short by a shudder from your collar and a sharp voice in your mind. Do not tarry. Okay, we're on a timer. We need to... The previous user, the history, failed. We are on a timer. Move. You sink the climbing claws into the whale's top hide and leaving a bloody trail behind you, quickly climb your way up. As you ascend, the steady lapping of waves fades and the wind grows. But there come no sounds of the living or dying, village built upon the marteling's back. Finally, you crest the whale's plank and pull yourself over the top. Silence, like a miasma, hangs over the empty driftwood shacks. Bits of bone, sheets of sin, crude abandoned tools. These are the only signs that people once thrived in this unusual home. The lookout has left no tracks, and in the moment you spent scanning the narrow, trash-strewn street, no one else emerges. Beyond this bleak emptiness, two things rise. Nearby, a kind of pavilion or howdah built atop of the whale's head, and in the distance a huge stone stern castle at the whale's rear. A beam of light streams from the stern castle to the howdah, encasing the latter in an iridescent bubble, some sort of shield, by the look of it. There's nothing else of note. Search for survivors. No. No. We're on a timer. Climb one of the shacks to gain better vantage. I need to know what's going on. From the looks of it, we need to go to the stern castle first. You climb atop of a rickety roof, mindful to spread your weight evenly across the pock-marked synth. Even still, it flexes ominously beneath you. From on high, most of what you see is the same, a warren of winding, empty streets flanked by filthy hovels, all silent and lifeless. But then a flicker of motion catches your eye. Half hidden behind a motion of garbage, a small crowd seems to have circled a woman. You cannot make out exactly what transpires, but you can plot a path through the village to reach the crowd, or to avoid it en route to the stern castle. I see how this goes. For the greater good, we basically need to accept that we can't do everything. Everyone on this whale will die unless we manage to do whatever we need to do here first. So if we get sidetracked, we're gonna fail anyway. So head to the stern castle, ignore the woman and the crowd. Following the map in your mind, you wend your way down the narrow village lanes. Silence, stench, and squalor are your only companions. At last you arrive at the stern castle, a towering edifice of steel and stone. That it is a seat of power could be clear even without the ribbon of energy streaming from its tower toward the distant howdah. A large mob has gathered in the Stern Castle steps, and many of the men and women mutely pound upon the gates. Their silence and flatness of their effect is striking. As you watch their ineffectual siege, more file in behind you, blindly forcing you forward, cutting off any means of retreat. For now, thanks to the light bender, they have not seen you. Clear out the mob and open the gates with the concussive crystal. Call out to the mob and urge them to seek in accordance with those in the Stern Castle. Climb the Stern Castle wall and gain entry through a window. I'll climb the wall. It seems like a waste to use the crystal here. They're not getting inside. Talking to a mob, really. I don't think that's ever worked in the history of mobs, so maybe some kind of show of force could get them their attention, but what the fuck would I say to them? They're a mob. So climb the Stern Castle wall and gain entry through a window. In general, I think we should avoid all kinds of confrontations as long as possible. The crystal and the blade are last-ditched efforts to get something done. You are well up the Stern Castle's wall before the Lightbender's power peters out, and by then you are far from the mob's reach. Indeed, you seem far from their care, as they are content to continue pounding away at the gates. The climb is an easier one than your last. Even without the claws, you would find easy finger holds in the weather-worn mortar and rough stone. Above you shimmers the beam of energy fueling the Howdah's distant force field. Soon you have reached an open window, and without hesitation you swing your way inside, landing deftly in a great hall. The Stern Castle's defenders are a few dozen men and women armed with little more than spears and marlin spikes. One of them has a few healing ciphers, another wears a richly dyed robe adorned with glitter-garbed scales. No doubt she is their leader. The hall holds little else of interest save a large Numenera that streams energy out through the window, feeding the force field at the whale's head. The defender's leader addresses you, her voice oddly accented. "Welcome to Folkhaven, emissary," she says gently. "I speak for the folk. We must dock in your city. We are in desperate need of healing, as you saw when you faced the unspeakables. We beg your aid in these dark days." Who are you? Well, she's the leader. It doesn't matter who she is. Who are in all these unspeakables? It doesn't matter who they are. Forget about the healing. We'll destroy this whale if you do not turn around. Your plague will not reach Sega's cliffs. No, we'll go with that. I want to help your people, but you must turn away from Sega's cliffs or the cannons will destroy the whale. It's a little bit more... It acknowledges their plight. They might be more willing to go with it. The speaker is for a moment speechless. The defender's eyes are all turned upon her, and a look of horror and nausea bleaches her face. Then, with visible effort, she composes herself. "You have spoken, and I have heard." She lowers herself to her knees. "But I again implore you and your far-famed city to aid us in our hour of need. The lives of the folk and the fate of the haven turn upon your word." The hall falls silent, waiting your reply. Okay. For the greater good answer, 100,000 versus your tiny village. That's a consideration, but I don't want to say that. It's not necessarily not true, but that's a terrible way to say it. I must think of both my city and our village. That's much more reasonable. If I could let you dock and save your people, I would, but it's not my word. It isn't. Yeah, that's not a. I think that number 2 is actually quite good. I must think of both my city and your village. I will do what I can to help you short of endangering my own people. Yes. This is a sort of a nasty situation because I know that the guy who I'm seeing, I am at the moment, failed on this. So I'm a bit worried for the greater about the greater good options, because that seems to be what his nature is, and he failed. So at the same time, if I stop to help everyone, this little boy failed too. So I am attempting to keep the whale alive. I just don't know what option will lead to that, if anything leads to that. The speaker pushes herself to her feet and brushes her off her knees. I do not fault those who speak for your city. We have done the same here to safeguard the uninfected within these walls. But we cannot change course from here. He points to the window through which the Numenera sends its energy. The whale singer guides the whale from upon its head, and he must be shielded against plague. Were he to lose his voice, there would be no song to steer us. A grim, false smile cuts her face. But there is a way. You see, a gift has come to us, a means by which the healer can concoct an inoculation against the quiet death. It comes at a price, one your city will make us pay. She points to a boy huddled nearby and calls him over. The gift, she says. The only one to fall sick and silent, yet fend off madness. She strokes his hair. From the fluid in his spine, the healer will decant a guard against the death. She gestures for him to sit. Not a cure, and enough for at most 20 inoculations. You count more than that in the hall. From 20, the fog can grow again, as we did after the sinking. She smiles at the boy. The gift will not refuse, or cry out. He will endure his death in silence. He takes your hand. We will lower the shield, and you will bring an inoculation to the whale singer. The whale will turn, and we will survive. There must be some other way to stop the disease. Yeah, but we are on a timer, and we know we failed. This is not the time to discuss alternative medicine. What if the procedure fails? You'll have killed the only one of your people immune to the disease. Well, so what? The boy is not gonna survive on his own anyway. And it's, yeah, this, again, we have to keep in mind the constant time ticking. I don't want to start arguing about this shit. No law and no decent person would permit such a crime against a child. Give me a fucking break. Very well, the survival of your people is more important than the boy's life. That's one way to look at it. Probably not that bad in this situation. There is another way. Kill the would-be child slayers and disable the shield generating Numenera. No, there isn't. Destroy the Numenera with your concussive crystals. What the fuck? I think we should accept the boy's sacrifice. I think this seems to be catered around making difficult choices. I mean, basically, you cannot get through this without sacrificing certain people. And if you try to save everyone, everyone dies. But there's a but there. This character is not the type of to save everyone. And he still failed. I don't see how destroying the Numenera would really help. Let's say we... Let's say it disables the force field and gives me access to the whale singer. Then what? I need the... I need some kind of an inoculation anyway, otherwise he gets sick. And I have no idea what's going on in the head. Yeah, yeah, these are just reckless things to try. Uh, Very well. The survival of your people is more important than the boy's life. She spoke the truth. When the boy is broken upon the surgeon's bench, when Cyprus bore into his back, he makes not a noise. From his life 23 will be saved, each with an amber promise swirling in a strong glass vial. The healer hands one to you, along with a cipher that will inject it into the whale singer. The speaker gives you a flag, half yellow, half blue. Wave it when you reach the shield. We will open a way, and the singer will know you for a friend. With that, the folks spread a word of blessing and lead you to a tunnel, dug through whale flesh, that will give you a clear start. Okay, again, this should speed things up. So this at least seems like the smart thing to do. Your path will not be easy, the village is overrun, but it is the only way, so you go. The collar around your neck hums, and a voice warns, "Make haste, the whale has entered the bay." You heed its command. As you weave through the narrow paths and alleys, faint sounds stir in the silence. The shuffle of footsteps, the huffing of heavy breaths. With a watchful eye and a quiet tread, you advance, keeping out of sight as best you can. Soon they are before you, a gang of unspeakables, at least a dozen strong, making their starving, raving way through the village, and unknowingly barring your advance. I can't fight my way through them, even if I can kill them, it'll take too much time. I think I lost my invisibility. Sneak past them. Ah, fuck. I can't I can't take the time. Dispose of them with concussive crystal. I'm leaning towards that because the first option is you are not here to cleanse the haven, sneak past them. It's like the sneak option is because I'm trying to save as many people as possible. The thing is, they're dead already. There's no way to save them. They're they're infected. They don't have inoculations for them, so they're as good as dead. The only thing here is the consideration is the time. So dispose of them with the concussive crystal, move past them as quickly as possible. I have to just hope that their tower isn't surrounded by the others like the castle was. The cipher, so long husbanded, at last has its moment. The crystal's blast is bright, deafening, and destructive. The unspeakables who survive scatter in terror, and the way before you is clear. You reach the top of the whale's head and stand before the shimmering force field that shields the howdah. A wave of the blue and yellow flag brings it down. Within the pavilion stands a stocky man, barrel-chested and ruddy, the whale singer. He seems pleasantly surprised to see you. Behind him, a wide-mouthed tubes rise up from the whale's hide, and past them is the flat expanse of the whale's brow. Not so far beyond are the cliffs, the cannons, and the city. The whale singer's voice booms when he speaks, his words accented like the speaker's. "I do not know you, stranger, but you have braved the unspeakables and come bearing the speaker's blessing. I await your words." So, trick him into turning the whale without giving him the inoculation. Why would I do that? Uh, He seems to be in good health, so the inoculation can probably wait for a second or two. How do you steer the whale? Right, because it seems like I have an option to basically let him die for some reason. But what exactly is going to happen if I do that? Whalesinger waves a hand at the trumpet-like bronze tubes rising from the creature's hide. When I sing, the salpinges bear my song into her very brain, stirring the nerves within as if my voice were her own. What I sing, she must do. He kneels and places a hand on the huge head beneath him. It is a duty and an honor to join the Great One's mind. I soothe her loneliness, hold her back when the males roar their lust through the seas. Thus have I and the many singers before me kept Folkhaven from sinking below the waves. So the consequence would not necessarily be bad for Sega's cliffs, but the village would be destroyed. Right. Tell me more. No, I'm not interested in the whale's history. Give him the inoculation. You quickly explain that the healer has given you and what the healer has given you, and hand the inoculation to the whale singer. He presses the needle through his skin, blending the serum with his blood. There is no change or wonderment worked by the injection. No esoteric lies behind this treatment, merely a child's life. All the same, the whale singer nods and thanks you. I have safeguarded my song, that does the haven. Right. Tell him he must turn the whale before it is destroyed. With a gesture to the cannons bristling to the not-so-distant cliffs, you warn the singer of what will come if the whale is not turned. Trusting in the speaker's flag and the clear truth in your words, he gives a quick nod and turns to the tubes rising from the whale flesh. It is an uncanny song he sings, inhuman and at the same time heart-achingly intimate. At once the whale begins to turn, heaving its huge bulk away from the city and back to the open seas. And then the song ends, and the whale singer takes a long swig from a flask chained to his belt. It is done. Seconds later, the collar around your neck flickers and a voice whispers to you alone. Do not let it turn back. Kill him to ensure that the whale will not be turned back to the Sega's cliffs. I'll actually ask more about the whale now. But is the killing even... I feel this character probably obeyed his orders. I think if I kill him, this basically turns to shit anyway. Because we'll lose control of the whale. I'm not sure how it will act. In the best case scenario, only the city on top of the whale gets destroyed when it starts actually swimming, diving. Worst case is it'll lose control and it'll head towards Sega's cliffs and everything happens like it happened. And I fully believe this character would have killed the man. Might have even tried to convince him to divert the whale without the cure. Yeah, I'm not killing him. Tell me more about the whale. The whale singer shakes his head. Each whale singer teaches his craft to a song student, who will in turn live to become singer himself. A sadness steals over his face. Though the student is gone, you are not of the folk and cannot take his place. Yeah, I'm not killing him. Return to the Gao. You race down the whale's head and leap into your dhow. With a swift slash, you cut the harpoons loose. Moments later, the whale is already dwindling into the distance. Whatever fate awaits the folk and unspeakables, it will be resolved at sea, far from the city you were sent to protect. As you slip from its shadow, the indigo waves turn azure. Your color trembles and the voice returns. You should have cut deeper. Then silence. The wind bears you back toward home. You do not bother to watch the vanishing whale with a dying village on its back, for ahead of you grows the great city of Sage's Cliffs, its buildings, then its people coming slowly into view. They are safe for now. Okay, I wonder what the consequence of that is. Is the... Yep. I don't know. I don't know if we'll find out. This muscular orifice that first expelled you into the bloom, it quivers and clenches in agitation. These chantries are constructed entirely of tanned bloom flesh, with a framework of harvested bone and gristle. Yeah. Okay, what's going on here?
Why not?
This tent is made from scavenged canvas and flimsy wooden poles. It smells faintly of sweat. A woman, barefoot and in rags, stands defensively beside her tent. Despite her obvious poverty, she crosses her arms and holds her chin high. And what do you want? Who were those people who ran off? She points her chin in the direction of the tunnel that leads out of the courtyard. They're called Delny and Brung. They've been squeezing money out of me for months. Protection, they call it, though obviously they only mean from them. I wish I could do more than simply cave their demands. But as you can see, I'm not exactly equipped to defend myself. It's all I can do to survive. Why not call the guards? There are no guards, probably. Guards? You mean the Memovira's thugs? All they do is guard her interest and extort money from the gangs. They don't keep order unless you can pay them. That's the way of the bloom. Delny and Bron can do as they like as far as anyone else is concerned. How often do they steal from you? Too often. I barely have enough to feed myself, and then they take what's left, usually more than what's left. Do you have any money left? Enough to get by. Her eyes suddenly narrow. Why? You're not thinking of protecting me as well, are you? You're wasting your time. I have nothing left. Except you just said you have something left. Yeah, that's not really my style. Where did those two run off to?
I'll remember that.
They crawl out of a hole somewhere deeper in the bloom. Little Neelish, I think it's called. I'm not the sort to wish violence upon anyone, even people like them, but I hope something happens to stop them. Okay, look at her closely. You notice immediately that her rags are actually made of a high-quality fabric. It appears that they were once a fine green dress or a gown, though it is now filthy and torn. She catches you looking and straightens her posture, seemingly almost regal for a moment. Tell me about yourself. She gives a weak smile and a curtsy. My name is Qian, the Bloom's most pitiful storyteller and self-styled innkeeper, though I admit that inn is far too fine a word for my little tent. Still, I can provide a meal, a bedroll, and at least a modicum of entertainment in the form of tales from my homeland. Before I came here, I was a noblewoman, believe it or not, a courtier from Stirthal.
She gets a faraway look in her eyes.
It feels like a previous life. I wonder if I'll ever find my way back.
She shakes her head.
I suspect not.
Where is Stirthal?
Hundreds of kilometers from here, from what I've learned. As I understand it, the bloom is located in what we in Stirthal call the Beyond, or actually Beyond the Beyond, as I had never heard of Sega's Protectorate or any of the places people talk about here. Stirthal is one of the largest cities in the Steadfast. It perches on the edge of an enormous rift and in the ground called Boil Chasm. Some streets and buildings even protrude from the cliffsides, not unlike your Sega's cliffs, as I understand it. It's a cultural jewel in an otherwise war-torn nation.
How did you get here?
You've seen the Katina, I assume?
She gestures broadly at the massive broken vehicle behind her, being slowly subsumed by bloom flesh.
It's a kind of magical carriage, capable of traveling great distances by skipping over the space in between. Governor Marizek's priest determined that it came through Stirthal on a very precise schedule. It would appear at one of a few locations near Stirthal every 23 hours. 73 hours. Well, among the nobles it became a sort of adventure. We would dare one another to board the Katina, or even hold parties at a location where it was scheduled to appear. It was exciting. I knew people who went on such journeys and came back with the most wonderful tales. They spent a couple of days meeting strange, fascinating people and visiting wild locales. Some, I'm fairly certain, were not even in the Ninth World. I had to see it for myself. So about a year ago, my friends and I threw a Katina Gala in anticipation of its arrival. We packed and dressed for adventure, and when the carriage arrived, we boarded immediately.
She clasped her hands in front of her and sighs.
Sadly, that was the Katina's final journey. It crashed here, tunneling through part of the bloom. Most of the passengers were killed in the crash, and the rest in the months since. I am all that's left of that voyage.
Yeah, we can say two things about it. At least you have an exciting tale to tell, or you are a very strong person to have survived for so long. I'm not sure she would appreciate the humor. At the same time, she might. Assuming she gets back. Right. I'll go for it. Well, at least you have an exciting tale to tell.
If I survive, I suppose.
He considers for a while longer.
Yes, I do indeed. Thank you, good sir. I'd nearly forgotten why I boarded the Katina in the first place.
Moderate red tide, right? I'm sort of not sure why certain amounts are tiny, small, moderate, or things like that. It's just a fucking joke. Something to lighten the mood a little bit. Is it really a moderate amount red tide? Really? That's like making a sort of a slightly bad taste joke on a social site. I mean, who gives a shit? It's not a big deal. Not a moderate amount big deal, at least. How much does it cost to sleep here?
65 shins each. No.
Jesus. Fuck. I couldn't afford it anyway.
All right.
Bloom gives, the bloom takes, the bloom feeds. It feeds me and it feeds on me, but the Katinas warm to the touch.
Don't
These are
mind
pretty
if I do.
pathetic people in general. These tents look and smell like nests of vermin. They're littered with moldy blankets and scraps of rotting food.
Happy to help.
This massive vehicle appears to have crashed through the nearby wall. Bloom flesh has resealed the hole and is beginning to grow across the vehicle's surface.
I'm going.
A panel has fallen away from the side of the crashed Katina, exposing a compartment that is filled with machinery. Waves of energy radiate from it like a heat haze. Examine. Most of the machinery in this compartment is smashed and unrecognizable, hanging by wires and strips of torn synth. In the open spaces between the machines, tiny vortices of light and energy occasionally spring into being, obliterate everything that they happen to touch, and then vanish again. You recognize the vortices as minuscule singularities in space-time. Their presence suggests that this Katina is powered by a transdimensional power source, which might be accessible from its aft section. As your eyes grow accustomed to the weird blurry haze, you notice a synth canister near the back of the compartment. It appears to be intact. If you stretch out your arm, you might be able to reach it, but if a vortex opens at the wrong time, you could be seriously hurt. Peer more carefully at the canister. If the interior of the Katina is anything like a mechanical engine, you'd guess that the canister is some kind of a coolant. Though, given the size of the Katina's engine, it's probably much more powerful than anything you've seen before. You suspect that the canister could be repurposed to a single-use device that could freeze anything or anyone in a matter of seconds. Okay, Bryn, hit your fingers here. I can guarantee a success. You reach into the compartment, fingers scrabbling at the smooth synth of the canister, trying to work it loose. A tiny vortex flares to life near your arm, but you snatch it away, and the vortex misses you by a few centimeters. With a final twist, you pull the canister free. The canister is icy cold to the touch. On one end, you find a release valve. If you opened it all the way, the coolant would be sprayed out, freezing anything it touches. Hyper coolant spray. 25 points of chemical damage and confers stun. The character cannot move or take actions for 3 rounds. That is very good. The damage is secondary. He's basically out of... no... yeah, he's basically out of the fight for 3 rounds. That's death. You have to be next to the target though.
The very soul of action.
Okay, anyone want to share their knowledge about this place?
I thought the inside of my mouth was strange, but this place, it's like being inside my mouth. Well, it's inside another mouth.
What's strange about the inside of your mouth? All the mouths are strange, fleshy bits flapping and squishing behind exposed bones. He pauses mid-shudder, thinking, although my mouth doesn't have anyone walking around in it, in comparison to this place, anything's normal. He beams. Thank you, my mouth no longer makes me nervous. Right.
I knew.
You knew what? He paces over a small patch of ground as though caged. I knew he was here, and that he was looking for me. I should have... He trails off and pulls the ring Dracogen gave him from his pocket. He cradles it in his palm and meets your eyes. Heartbeat. They work by skin contact, see. I'd know if he was... He bites his lip and closes his fingers over the ring. Dracogen had the ring of the right of it. Over...
Ovine and I were closer than close. The world stomped on us, but we survived it together, carried each other through wars and harder times. We were arms of the same body, but with different minds. Too different, as it turned out. He takes a deep shaking breath. I loved him, he says simply. We have to find him. I have to find him.
I don't understand. Can't you use those rings to sense his mind and see where he is?
Right,
He says, with a trembling laugh.
you don't know what you're asking. Back in the good days, it'd be like holding hands, wrapping your fingers around theirs, right? But with their thoughts and feelings instead of flesh and bone.
He shakes his head.
I'd need to concentrate for one, and two, I'm not welcome there anymore. He made that clear. I don't know that I disagree.
We'll find him.
Thank you. I just want to talk to him. Set a few things right, if that's still possible.
He swallows and slips the ring onto his finger. What happened between you and Orbin anyway?
This isn't the time,
Tiber says, but he glances up at you regardless.
It was mutual, all right. As time wore on, we wanted different things, and I wasn't willing to.
He stops himself, sighs.
Leave it. Let's just focus on fighting him.
Can't you tell me anything?
Not important now. Let's focus on finding him.
Okay, where do you think he is?
Updated my journal.
He's...
Tiber begins, touching the ring on his hand and closing his eyes. His brow wrinkles in discomfort, confusion.
He's somewhere in Little Neelish.
Okay. Do you know anything about the bloom?
Well, I lived here for a time, though not recently. Room's no place for pleasure.
He nods at you.
Ask your questions and I'll do my best.
What do you know about Krakogen?
Not enough. He isn't the first man to use that name, and I've heard stories that he can be in more than one place at the same time.
Tiber hisses air out of the side of his mouth.
He pays well, but you don't want to cross him. Ever. You just don't.
What do you know about the Memovira?
Not much, and I like it that way. Now, if you want to know what happens to people who cross her, just listen for the screaming.
Okay, what about the bloom?
If I'm being charitable, everything's got the right and a chance to live, but this beast hates the people living in it. There is a fortune to be made in here if you know what you're doing, but only the hardest operators last long down here, and the bloom never misses a meal.
Okay.
I need someone to talk to. I need to talk to you.
Rin clutches your hand but won't look into your eyes. Of course, Rin. What is it? Even though she said she needed to talk, she hesitates.
It's about my memories. I feel like I should remember more by now, but I don't. I can't. You asked me before what my parents' names were, and I couldn't remember. I still can't. I can't remember why I left, or how I got to Sega's Cliffs, or anything that happened to me before that horrible slaver Toll captured me.
She wraps her arms around herself.
I should remember by now. I can remember everything from the time I got hurt. I remember meeting Otero in the junkyard. I remember making all.
She looks up, make deep lines etched in her brow that have no place on the face of a child. Yeah, I remember making all. Right.
But I can't remember anything before that. Nothing before the slavers at all, and I don't know why. My head is fine now, so why?
How did you get hurt?
Oh,
Her cheeks become flushed.
I was running away from someone. I don't know who. Toll and her slavers captured me. They hurt me and stitched me up so Toll could use me.
She shivers, her face twisting into an ugly mask of disgust.
I escaped later, days later I think. Otero found me in the junkyard and then later I made my home in Sega's Cliffs. But who was I running from before Toll found me? That's what I can't remember and I don't know why.
Why do you think that is?
She shakes her head.
I don't know. The memories are there, I know it. Just like those thugs I knew. I was in that house in Cliff's Edge. I can feel the memories, hear them, but when I look for them, they aren't there.
How long have they been gone? What is the last time you remember remembering them? She furrows her brow in thought.
They were gone when I met Otero. They were gone when I made off. They were gone until when I hurt my...
She touches her scar.
No, they weren't. I knew my parents, remembered them in the cage. It was only afterward when I ran from Toll when I...
She yanks Al from her pocket and holds him in front of her face.
Ah, did you know about this?
She cocks her head the way she does when she listens to him. A worried expression blooms on her face. Suddenly she gasps. A tear drips from the corner of one eye. Wait. Rin bites her lip hard, then
Why? Why did you do this?
she listens more. You hear something, like a bird rustling in its egg, but you can't tell if it's from the stone or something else. Her head still cocked, Rin speaks to you, her voice strangely flat.
He's been hiding parts of my memory from the beginning. He wanted me to blend in, to avoid undue attention. He was worried. He thought if I knew the truth I would have given up a long time ago, from the beginning. Tell me then,
She says to the stone. Her face reddens, angrier than you've ever seen her.
what have you been keeping from me?
She listens for what seems a long time, her expression increasingly frightened as she does. Finally, she lets her hands fall and she tells you.
I ran away. I was angry at them, my parents. Something stupid, something we'd fought over 100 times, but this time I left. I packed my things, took my coat, and when the moon was high, I just walked out.
I'm ready to become even more heroic!
I thought I was prepared, thought I was safe, but they attacked me. Amar. No, I shouldn't say their name. Soldiers. It doesn't matter.
Her knuckles whiten around the stone.
I ran, they ran faster. I made a guard somehow, a guard of going forth. I must have got away into this world and fallen through it. I guess it saved my life, but then the slavers, my head, all.
She scowls and shouts at the stone.
You kept it from me. You walked into my mind and stole from me. I can never forgive you, never.
She pulls back and throws the stone as far as she can manage. Then she collapses to her knees, her shoulders shuddering with each sob. Al did what he thought was best for you. Yeah, but that doesn't justify doing whatever to Rin. I'm sorry he did that to you, Rin. It wasn't right. It's over. You remember now, and you are a part of this world. You should forgive him. I'm not going to tell someone who or what they should forgive or not forgive. I'm sorry he did that to you, Rin. It wasn't right. Rin stays there on her knees for a long time, sobbing, then sniffling. Finally, she wipes her face on her sleeve. She stands up and walks over to where she threw all. She stares at the rock for a while. Stone, not a rock. Then bends down and puts it in her pocket.
I need him.
She says, to no one in particular. She straightens, her face a mask.
Are we going or what?
Well, we got a level up or two out of it.
Did you want something?
She looks more pale than usual in this place. Yeah, how are you holding up? Can't ask about anything. Like, Tier 4 fighters. Extra effort in... I don't think I want to take strength or might this time. Although, I'm not sure anything else has any real use for me though. I mean, I have no intellect abilities, no real speed abilities either. So, shrug? Well, extra effort doesn't... Yeah, I constantly mix edge and effort. Effort is the maximum amount of points you can use in a challenge, edge is the amount of free points you get. Right. So, yeah, no consideration. Crescendo. When Eritis lands a critical hit, gain +3 damage to his attacks for the rest of the crisis. This effect stacks, increasing with each critical hit. With every powerful blow, Eritis' glow intensifies and his attacks get stronger and stronger and stronger. So, okay, thanks for the ability. 1 point remaining, so we can only choose one. Definitely not Brawler, definitely not Hook. So drink to the dregs or pinning reaction. Maximum effort +1 on attacks, this is shit. Focused effort position. These are your watchwords, and you put them into play every time you make an attack. Boo! Opportunist and counterattack attacks end the target's turn on hit. What? A foe can't fight if she can't move. Your opportunistic attacks shock your enemy's minds, stopping them in their tracks. I don't think... I know what opportunist is, but do I even have a counterattack? What the fuck is that? Yeah, now I can't go back, so I have no idea what exactly does it fix. This is not a good character or level up screen. This is not a only game that has this problem. Usually what I would like to see is access to the abilities I already have too, so I can basically see what I have a sort of a clear view at what type of a character I've been building and what type of things might go well together. I hate playing these memory games with these abilities. Especially these days. Olden days usually relied more on dice rolls. You didn't not special abilities you use. Newer games have all these special abilities, a huge amount of them. They're nonsensically named or very... They don't have any real sort of a design theme in the naming that could allow you to determine what they do. They're just a name for it. Well, what I'm saying is that the name basically usually doesn't tell much about what the ability actually does. You either remember it or you don't. You can't just look at the name and see what it does. So it's much harder to remember all the abilities what you have. I don't know what to take. I would like to know what the fucking counterattack is. The pinning action on opportunist is not worth it. Counterattack might, but I don't know what it is. Does it only ends the target's turn? So, right, so it will take their action away too, not just their movement. That's not bad. I'll take it, even though I don't know if it's any good. It might be. I might have a use for it, even though I don't have any real idea what it does. Heavy weapons. Yeah, heavy weapons. No, not necessarily. Yeah, definitely heavy weapons. What's counterattack? I don't have a counterattack. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much wasted. What about you? Shoot first. Gain plus 30 on attacks against enemies with a lower initiative than Tiberius. Makes my initiative investment pay off. The ninth world is full of graves of honorable men, and Tiberius has no intention of joining them. Its attacks do much more damage against unprepared opponents. So this is plus 30% on attacks against basically all enemies. Not quite, but pretty much. Nope. 3 abilities. Limits of human capacity. Plus 2 might, 2 speed, 2 intellect. Gain plus 25% movement speed, plus 5 initiative, plus 1 max effort, and plus 15% on all attacks. Active until next sleep. So sacrifice few points in the pool for massive boosts in combat. And you could recover those points by spending basically 100 chins. Interesting. Very interesting. I'm not super attached to this, but yeah, still interesting. Versatile effort. When flex skill is active, that's I think the ability to give yourself a +1 to your skills. Gain a plus 5% bonus for each level of effort applied to task it affects. This is horseshit. Virtuoso. Well, max effort +1 on all non-combat tasks. You don't get tired as easily as normal beings, and you're able to keep working on certain tasks when others would falter. Here's the thing. This would have been maybe useful for someone else. I'm actually thinking of taking the resourceful so I can take more ciphers. Limits of human capacity could help in a top fight if we have to redo fights. It doesn't really have the points for this. Intellect or might. Speed, definitely yes. Yeah. I don't know. I'm leaning towards cipher skill use. Just so I can store more of them. I'm not particularly interested in necessarily even using them on this guy. But it's a very low level ability versus very high level abilities. I'll take it anyway. I don't care for these. Not the saying that they're bad, just 0 sheets given. Running, definitely running. That's our extra movement anyway. 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, 2 out of 2, 5 out of 6. So we can get 3 more. Excellent. Hyper coolant spray. Someone who can actually move should have this. I usually have to do other things because I'm so good at intellect tasks. Yeah. Do I have a healing thingy? I feel like I have a healing thingy. Scorpion's Desire to all characters. +4 armor. Yeah, that's a massive boost.
I've watched you when you think no one's looking. You stop smiling then.
I never think no one's looking. That's my handsome friend.
Okay. Slave auction. Shop.
Of course.
Do I want to start fighting over slaves?
Here I come!
Exiles. Was a great man in Segas once, but that's gone now. All
course.
gone. Numenera thugs. Parsim Flint. I'm not interested in trying to do anything with the slave trade, but I might want to talk with him. See what exactly is going on. Numenera thugs. Coruscating rings of blazing energy hover vertically just inches from the fortress's wall, offering no clue as to their true function. I would assume they're some kind of defensive things. Maybe turrets or even. Yeah, there's multiples of them. Same thing. Maybe they're needed to effects to open the gate.
This is me, my place.
Scrunch your own hole.
Yes.
Metal gates are firmly shut, they are blemished with age but still strong. This woman's face is lined with worry, though her thick build suggests that she could snap a spear in two without much effort. She continually glances toward the tunnel leading out of the courtyard, as though she hopes to see somebody. She runs a hand through her short, graying hair and mutters, "Gods." Finally she takes notice of you. The wrinkles on her face harden immediately.
What are you looking at?
She adjusts a thumb toward the massive gate behind her.
Nobody gets in the fortress without permission. I can already tell you don't have it, so keep walking.
I need to see the Numenera. She places a casual hand on the hilt of a large blade.
Nobody sees the Numenera, not unless you get permission from someone who matters.
You don't understand. I need to see. Yeah, that'll go far. I don't want to start a fight here. I'm sure they're very good fighters. And the defensive things here at the gate might basically end the fight before it even starts. You look worried about something. What's wrong? She gives you a wry grin.
Is that obvious? You'd be worried too if you had 2 patrols go missing and you were stuck on guard duty.
Making a note.
Listen, if you happen to see my missing soldiers, I'd appreciate whatever news you can give me. They'll be outfitted like me.
She indicates her studded leather armor.
I'd go looking for them myself, but...
She gives a kind of a surrendered shrug, leaving her thought unfinished. Where should I start looking?
I'll remember that.
Both of the patrols were tasked with collecting duties from the gangs. They're probably somewhere in the vast interior or one of the slums, but I haven't heard from them in some time. Given the nature of the bloom, they could literally be anywhere.
Except not here, of course, so literally not everywhere. If I find your missing people, will you let me inside? I don't think that makes a difference. We might as well ask, though. She gives you a pitying look.
I don't decide who gets in. I just keep everyone else out. But if you find my men, I'll give you something for your trouble.
Fair enough. Can you tell me something about the Numenera?
She's someone you don't want to cross. Like me.
Okay, tell me about you.
Alright, I've heard about you from the folks in the cliffs. I guess I can't get away from you without answering some questions, can I? I've been in the Memovira's service for years, ever since she first came into power. She's not one to mess with, let me tell you. She'll squash anyone in her way just to keep things tidy.
She gets a faraway look in her eyes.
At least that's how it used to be. Things are different now. The Bloom's acting strange, and even some of the gangs are getting out of control. Never crossed the Mevavira. But these days it seems there are plenty of others you shouldn't cross either.
You said the Bloom is acting strangely.
It used to be that the Bloom sort of favored us because we worked for the Memovira. She seemed to predict things it would do or new malls that would open, but now it's dangerous for us to go too deep, else the Bloom itself might swallow some of us whole. That's if we can find our way in the first place. With the malls closing and shifting like they are, it's a wonder my patrols ever get back to the fortress at all.
The gangs are out of control. Can you tell me something about them?
Too many to tell, but I can list a few you are likely to find nearby. There's the Murdens down where all the old slave block used to be. We've tried to run them out a few times, but there always seems to be more. Can't figure out why the Bloom doesn't bother them. There's the mutants in Little Neelish. Let me point out that they named the place, like they're trying to make a new Neelish right here, with them as the rulers. They didn't used to give us trouble, but they've gotten bolder since the Bloom started acting up. I'm not sure which is worse at this point. And then there's Artaglio and his punch. They stay mostly in the slump. They're not so much a gang and they're a bunch of freeloaders, but they cause enough trouble with the other gangs that they're worth mentioning.
Ah, okay, very well. Let's talk to this guy. Ooh, Pilates. And a thingamajig.
Yes.
A metal pylon so polished it might be crystal, just being thrust into the Bloom flesh at the junction of two armored neural axons. Yeah. Whether the bulbous protrusion around it is the effect of the invasion, or whether it was the reason for the insertion in the first place, is impossible to judge. Like so much of the Bloom, it oozes both mystery and mucus. Examine the pylon. The pylon appears to be the foundation of a dimensional anchor, but just the foundation. To be sure, it is in some ways the most difficult part to construct, but it is worthless without a variety of additional properly attuned Numenera. To finish the project would be a considerable undertaking, far more than you could hope to attempt. You notice that there's a deep sulcus in the Bloom flesh where it meets the pylon. The talc filling the crevice makes it impossible to tell what, if anything, is inside. Okay, study the Bloom flesh nodule and the neural sheets running outward from it. Judging from the ancillary organs that protrude from the nodule, it seems to be the organic equivalent of a regional control center. Not a true brain, but something more than a mere cluster of nerves. It's unclear whether it is a part of some larger mind or a near sentient organism of its own. Okay, reach into the sulcus. You are forearm deep in warm, mucousy talc when your fingers brush against something with a hard edge. Obviously not part of the Bloom flesh, but also distinct from the pylon. Unfortunately, your touch has dislodged it, and it begins to sink deeper into the crevice. Grab it. I think we're basically getting a one chance at this. Okay. Who has little fingers? Ooh, 100% natural success. Sunspot icon. You plunge in deeper and catch hold of the metal object. With relief, you pull your arm and the recovered cipher out of the mucousy sulcus. Opens a channel to the nearest celestial body. Fires a blast that deals 28 energy damage and confers blinded, active 2 rounds. The nearest enemy on each turn it is active. So it's active for 2 rounds. Minus 50% movement speed, minus 35% evasion, minus 35% on attacks, minus 35% damage. This is a it's basically a turret that fires twice. No. It fires one and confers the blindness effect to the nearest enemy each turn it is active, right? Or maybe, I don't know. At least it will fire once. And the blinded is a pretty powerful effect. This metal object is small enough to rest easily in your hand. It is a small depiction of an Astrapian monolith engraved with peculiar glyphs that do not mean anything to you. If you slam or throw the tapering end into the ground, the object spreads metallic root-like vines through the ground, and once embedded it activates. When the icon is active, it acts as a conduit for energy tapped from the nearest celestial body, emanating a blazing power that scorches and blinds any unfortunate who draws too close. So I think it fires twice and blinds twice. Nearest enemy, so doesn't attack our own guys. Very nice. Very nice. Leave the pylon alone. Okay, slave guy. No.
Of course.
Philethys. Is it the same Philethys as in the Circus Minor? A creature floats before you, hidden inside its voluminous cloak, unmoving and unmoved by your presence. It observes the slave market with a scholar's avid disinterest. Exactly who or what the thing is, man or machine, mutant or monster, is impossible to discern. Its glass face reveals nothing but your reflection. Its mechanical voice reveals nothing at all. You recall that this creature is known as Philethys, but you don't know anything else about them. Abruptly, its glass face twists in your direction. In a grasping, uninflected voice it asks, "Why did the child wail?" What child are you talking about? The slave? From the Philethys comes a shrill whine of mechanical parts or inhuman vocalization. Eventually, the sound changes to word. Irrelevant. Children cry for a lot of reasons, especially very young ones. Anything that's sort of wrong to them, and they fucking cry. Lonely, angry, wronged, hurt, frightened, yeah, they're all, yeah, it's just what children do, they cry. For a span, the Philethys stands still and silent, then with a gasp like the opening of an old vault it sighs. After a moment it seems to nod slightly, as if inviting you to pose questions of your own. Do you know anything about the bloom? A socket, a doorknob, a crumbling cliff. These are not your face. Each that is itself. The words, already slow, screech to a stop. Its glassy face cocks slightly, and a whir comes from within its robes. The mirror does not look back. The bloom cannot teach, but it leaves scraps. One gathers. Well, that was useful. So useful. What are you trying to find? A long, low exhalation comes from the Philethys. The question. Okay. What are you?
A mud lag on the bank of the river Time.
Right. I'm looking for someone, a fellow cast-off of the Changing God. The Philethys leans its huge bulk toward you, such that your face swells and deforms in its round reflection.
You yourself must find.
The thing's voice grays with labored certainty. Okay. Very well.
Courage.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks a bunch. I think I'll talk with Parson Flint and leave things there. Looks like another larger area with multiple areas for us to explore. So this is not gonna be a short visit to the Bloom. The fat little man turns toward you, a wide smile already on his face. Indeed, his smile is unnaturally wide, reaching almost to his ears. You notice that his mouth contains 2 rows of white, well-manicured teeth.
You catch me in the middle of an auction, sir, but no need to beg pardon, my clients will wait.
He leans forward conspiratorially.
I find that a short delay in the proceedings gets them talking amongst themselves and sparks their competitive natures. Good for prices.
The smile gets even wider, if that's possible.
Parson Flint is my name, and this disbursement of so-called slaves to so-called owners for the betterment of both parties is my trade.
I don't necessarily doubt that for the betterment of both parties, because the people who live here freely are in a miserable situation. So if they would be basically if anyone outside of this place or a wealthy owner would take them, their lives would probably be improved. The thing is that usually when you think of slavery these days, it's the whip the shit out of them type of slavery, and that's not usually what slavery even is.
Hello, Flint. Still dealing in human misery, I see.
Listen,
Why, if it isn't old Tiber, and another school of fish on the hook, eh? Watch out for this one, friend. He couldn't play it straight on a tightrope. That's nice coming from a swindler like you.
Piper winks at you.
Never mind that school of fish line, lad. We're only pulling each other's legs. Are we? Doesn't matter. Any friend of Tiber's is a welcome customer of mine.
He raises his eyebrows expectantly.
What sort of slave are you looking for?
Why would I want a slave? Flint blinks in surprise, but his smile doesn't falter.
To feed Moors, of course. Unless you're planning to let them feed on you, but I wouldn't advise that.
Ah. So their sacrifices more than... Actually, I don't know. How does the bloom work?
Naturally, it helps to know what a Moor wants before you go buying a slave. Not much point in buying a slave who isn't appetizing to the Moor in question.
Okay, so how exactly do you find out what's appetizing to the Moor? Then he asks in a whisper.
You'd be surprised how many people make that mistake.
Flint gives you a knowing wink, as if to emphasize the silliness of those people. Rin tugs urgently at your garment, and you glance down at her.
You have to buy one. Buy all of them if you can.
Fuck. Flint notices the little girl for the first time.
Ah, what a darling child you have there. And smart too. Are you looking forward to feeding your slaves to a Moor, my dear?
Not for a maw.
Ring whispers, ignoring the little man.
We have to set them free.
Maybe you'd better explain how slavery works around here.
Certainly, these slaves,
Flint nods at the bedraggled men and women in the pit, are convicts of the foulest sort. They are the very dregs of Vegas Cliffs and her surrounding communities. In order to pay their debt to society, many choose Bloom slavery instead of prison or execution. These individuals are given to me and I sell them to the enterprising merchants who ply the Bloom. Usually my clients come to me with specific requirements. Every maw has its own unique face, you see, and it won't open unless it gets precisely what it wants. So I offer an appropriate slave and they feed that slave to the maw, and everyone is happy.
Yeah, Flint grins, both rows of teeth shining whitely from inside the enormous mouth. So the slave volunteered to be eaten? Flint blinks, apparently taken aback.
They're desperate people, and being fed to the Bloom is not a death sentence. Well, not always. Sometimes the Blue only devours certain aspects of a person and they're entirely changed for the better, or it takes a small, trivial part of them, an eye, or half a stomach, or their ability to feel love, and spits them out into another world where they can start their lives anew.
Flint beams at the thought of it all.
Once a maw feeds on a slave, the slave is free. That's the law, mind you, unless the Murdens get hold of you.
Flint crinkles his nose in disgust.
They don't give a bird's chirp about such things.
Oh, right. Okay. I can see how this works. So the slaves are all criminals.
Of varying sorts, yes. Some, the more vicious, the better. At least as far as my clients are concerned.
Flint leans toward you again, his voice falling to a theatrical whisper.
The Bloom has a taste for the criminal element. Dangerous, predatory sorts of people draw its attention, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse.
What is a maw, anyway?
Maws are the mouths of the Bloom, my friend. Sometimes they lead to other worlds, or to hidden pockets elsewhere in the Bloom. One never knows, but that's part of the fun, you see.
So how do you know what a maw wants?
Ah, but that is the question. Sometimes you can puzzle it out on your own by watching the maw, observing the behavior of its tongues.
He wrinkles his nose.
A disgusting business altogether. Better to ask someone who's been here for a long time. They're barking mad, most of them, but they have an uncanny sense of the Bloom's desires. Some of them claim to hear the voices of the Bloom in their minds. Hearing the voice of the Bloom,
Flint whistles and waggles his fingers at his head.
That's when you know you're in trouble.
Okay. So this is actually very helpful. I'm glad I didn't ignore him. Drakengen told me that the malls have been closing.
Yes, they are. Closing, disappearing, changing destinations, and behaving badly all around.
Flynn glances over at the guards, his smile faltering.
That sort of thing is better to stay in a low voice, preferably far away from the Mevovira slugs, or they might get the idea you're blaming her for the problem. And she is supposed to have some sort of influence over this giant sack of angry flesh, so who knows, maybe it is her fault, but I would never say such a thing.
He smiles beautifully. Okay. Anything else that is useful? What exactly are you, an auctioneer?
Indeed not, sir. I'm a public servant. My work is indispensable to the fair city of Sagus Cliffs. I help these unfortunate wretches, he gestures at the slaves in the pit, pay their debt to society, as it were.
So basically you are an auctioneer. Yeah, I don't want to press that. If he doesn't see himself as an auctioneer, let him be with that false pretense. Right, okay. I'll leave things here. Very, very, very useful information. This is sort of...
Why not?
This is a problem with a game system.
I'm pretty sure most of the people here know everything he said, but you can't talk to them about it. So it's sort of a dice roll. Who's going to be the one that explains things to you in an in-game role? But now we more or less know. So in order to get travel to other places, we need to find a mouth and figure out what it wants. Yeah, but does it want only living creatures? I mean, if if it is your ability to feel love, for example, what exactly would it eat? Inanimate objects? Yeah, I still don't fully get what the moths are like. Uh, I'm more or less, I suppose the confusion comes from the fact that the spiritual successor for Planescape Torment, and in Planescape Torment there are portals. It's all about portals. It happens in a city of portals, and everything that's basically a frame of any kind is a portal. But the reason why portals aren't popping constantly everywhere is that you need some kind of a key to open them. And the key can be anything. It can be a thought, it can be a song, it can be a certain way of act, a certain signal, a certain thing you carry, a certain thought you are thinking at the time. So basically, yeah, absolutely anything. So
Yes.
I can't help but think that there's probably a connection to the bloom somehow. I mean, it's basically a gigantic creature that is full of portals to other worlds, and it 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 takes a price for using the portal, but it can be almost anything. But what type of anything? It seems like it so far that it wants some kind of a creature, some kind of price has to pay paid by a living creature. I want to know if we are required to have inanimate objects too. My thinking would be that maybe some of the oddities would work as a payment to open a portal. If it gets confirmed that it's biological living creatures only, then I don't have to worry about that at all. That would help quite a bit. Anyway. At least we understand the bloom a little bit. And yeah, this looks like this another larger hub area of quests.